Newt Gingrich stands above Republicans on at least one measure.
A do-nothing Congress faces key year-end decisions.
And a happy holiday for Barack Obama. I'm Frank Newport, Gallup Editor-in-Chief.
I'm Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today.
And this is Election Matters. Well, Susan, we started out talking about Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, and the measure we're talking about is our Gallup Positive Intensity Score, which for this past two-week period shows only one candidate in double digits. That's the first time in our history of doing this all year long that not at least two candidates have been in double digits, and that one candidate is Newt Gingrich. He's at 20. Everybody else, including Mitt Romney, is now in single digits, which means Republicans are more and more apathetic about almost everybody right now, except for Mr. Gingrich.
You know, we look also, of course, at the ballot measure. That's important. But in some ways, this is an even more important measure because it goes to how strongly voters feel about a candidate, how likely they are to stick with him or her when the time comes to vote, whether they'll volunteer or tell their neighbors to vote for them. This is a key strength for Newt Gingrich, at least right now.
We say a key strength now, but keep in mind these things are like roller coasters, and this is fascinating. Gingrich was up there around 20% earlier this year, then he fell to 1 by the summer. Remember, he had the controversy about Tiffany's and taking a cruise with his wife and had some staff problems. Now he has resurrected himself and he's back up to 20. But at the same time, and Susan, this is a key, Mitt Romney has actually been drifting down. He hasn't gone through a roller coaster, but he's now at 9. A positive intensity score of 9 for Mitt Romney. That's the lowest that we've ever tracked for him. He's just not generating much enthusiasm.
And of course, he's never had a positive intensity as high as 20. His previous high was 19. And we also see Herman Cain, who had a spin there at the top of the field, also falling to 9 when he had enormous enthusiasm earlier in this contest.
So the reference to Herman Cain shows us how quickly people can fall. And of course, a lot of opiners are saying that could be Newt Gingrich. You know, he was down, he's up again. We've seen Bachmann, Perry, and Cain both fall off, all three fall off again on our positive intensity measure. So the question will be, will that happen to Newt Gingrich? We'll have to wait and see. But to me, a real key is that Mitt Romney score, 9, which means Republicans are just, when we interview them, not very likely to say they have a strongly favorable opinion about the former governor of Massachusetts.
Now, Gingrich is going to be facing some challenges, but the fact that all the other candidates have had a kind of day in the sun, all of them except for Jon Huntsman and Rick Santorum, who haven't really, all the other candidates had a kind of moment in the sun, spotlight on them, they were doing well, they've all fallen. Clearly, there's a search going on in the Republican electorate for a nominee they can support. That may serve Newt Gingrich well, may go to his strengths, his ability to talk, to explain, to defend his positions, even though he comes in with some baggage.
Absolutely. He was former Speaker of the House. Speaking of the House, Congress Supercommittee failed. Our data showed last week, our Gallup poll, that Americans weren't as worried about a lot of aspects of that as we thought they might be, but they were worried that it signified Congress can't get much done. And they're back in town, right?
You know, maybe they were listening to all those reporters who said the super committee won't be able to deliver, and when that turned out to be the case, not a big surprise. Less impact than we saw previously during this year when Congress got up to kind of the edge of a precipice and couldn't deliver, as we saw in April and in early August.
Congress has a lot to do before the Christmas vacation, does it not? So another opportunity for them, I hate to be cynical, to not get anything done, to punt things down the field.
All right, there are a couple things that Congress thought the super committee might take care of. The extension of that payroll tax holiday, that's important for the economy, some economists think. The extension of long-term unemployment benefits, those are things that need to get done by the end of the year, or they expire. That would have real consequences for some Americans who are living on the edge.
Keep in mind, Congress approval to 13% can't get much lower, but we'll see what happens with all of these things you just mentioned they need to do this month of December. We mentioned at the outset, Susan, Obama had a happy holiday. Now, we know he played golf and was with family and all these, but that's not what we meant. We're talking about the economy.
You know, interesting on the Gallup measure on how much money did you spend, you saw a real rise for Black Friday, a good Black Friday for merchants, higher than it's been in the past 3 years.
Yeah, we had predicted an increase because we asked people how much you're going to spend on Christmas presents, and it was looking better in November, and at least the early indications are that it will. Economic consumer confidence looks a little better. We think the Conference Board, we're taping this on Monday, when it comes out on Tuesday, will show an improvement in consumer confidence. So all those things would certainly bode well for an Obama re-election, would they not?
Well, a better economy certainly helps the incumbent president, but a big number comes out Friday, unemployment. In some ways, that's an even bigger signal to Americans about how do you feel about the economy? How do you feel things are going in this country? So we'll see what happens with that number at the end of the week.
Yeah, our early Gallup indications based on our tracking of employment suggest it's not going to be good. That is, we're not going to see a continuing drop. But the BLS, the government agency, weights their data and does a lot of statistical adjustments, so sometimes it's hard to predict. But we think it will not be down on Friday, which would not be good for the Obama administration, but we'll wait and see. I'm Frank Newport. Susan, Gallup editor-in-chief.
I'm Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today.
And this is Election Matters.